Starting day 3 of construction, I decided I really liked the idea that I ended up with at the end of yesterday, and that is to bring this part of the border print around from the back as a belt. So I really need to do the collar, but I'm eking on fabric. Therefore, that forced me into going ahead and deciding some hemlines because I had so much hanging down. So you see right here how it was, and you can see what I cut off. Yes, and I cut my finger really good with kitchen shears. Not sewing shears, kitchen shears last night. All right, so that's how that front looks. I just like the point line and design wise. Do you see it's full of points? So I think to have a hemline that has points on it carries through that line design. And this side was already that way. But here in the back, you can see this huge long piece I had. So I decided to cut, this matches here. This matches here, so I cut this up to here. Now see, I cut it a little bit longer because I need to hem this in some way, shape, or form. And this was definitely a place where the hem would have to come up to. So now I have all of this, which gives me the fabric that I need in order to add something here on this left side back. That way I will have drapey, leafy fabric all around the bottom. And I think I really like that idea. It just didn't make sense at this point to have that be without fabric at the bottom. So now I just have to decide which piece gives me enough fabric to go in here. And I like this angle. I have now made my hemline decisions, and you can see where it is. Now I might shorten this side a little bit. All of the hemlines will just be turned under and stitched. This side, I think, on this side, I think I might leave it free. So even though in previous video I actually attached this to the side seam, I think I'll unattach it from the belt area down and stitch these parts together free and separate from the t-shirt. So that'll be flowy. Here around the back side, you can see what's happening. Oh, and the other thing I decided was, do you see how this angle comes down? I decided to bring this angle up a little bit higher here. So it's maybe not quite as high of an angle, but kind of. And then there, right here, what I'll actually do, since this is all finished, is I'll turn this under, and with that clear monofilament thread and not pulling it tight, I'll probably just top stitch this down. So that'll hold that down. And then on this side, look at all this fullness that I have right here, okay? And see how that kind of falls over the side seam into the front? Since that's gonna do that anyway, I think what I will do is leave it stitched to the side seam here, and then stitch this to the side seam and then the side seams together. There's no reason to have it flowing free right here because this is going to overlap it anyway. Those are my next tasks. I have pieced the print to equal the 12-inch by 43-inch butter suede. And then I decided to cut 2 inches off of the suede so that the suede actually is scrunched into the print. So what I'm going to do now is seam these two long edges. And then you see that will be more width to the suede than there is the print. All right, day 3, I'm working away, and all of this excess fullness here that I drafted in, it just seems like it needs to be controlled a little bit. And this, I want them going up at the same angle. What I'm gonna do is have this be free, I think. I may stitch it down. But at any rate, underneath, I have pinned in this fullness, see, in a way that I think looks good. So I will stitch that down for sure. So if that side is pulled in under the bust, then I think this side needs to be pulled in under the bust. So I'm gonna take this off and do some tucks here in this upper part to make it more even from side to side. So that's where I am. Things morph along the way. Yeah, well, okay. So as I just shared, the front is going to be pulled in, nipped in under the bust once I take this off and do some tucks in here. But around the back, I think I'm really locked into it flowing more freely. So, because that's the way this side is, and I'm just not gonna undo it. But look what's gonna happen here at the side seam. If I take this upwards to duplicate how it is on the other side, then I'm gonna have, with how I have this piece placed and how much fabric I have, so that's gonna go down, that strong line of this border print is gonna come down and this is gonna be up there. That doesn't make any sense. So I've repinned it, and I don't have a problem with this side coming almost straight across so that it visually connects in with this. And I think it just has to. Anytime you've got a focal area, and it definitely is that with this suede flange, your eye has to travel around the garment. So it's a favorite word of mine. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So at this point, I'm gonna get this stitched on flat so it's flowing freely. And then that will give me the exact location from the underarm down where I have to have this intersected. Because if you'll recall, these seams are getting sewn together, whereas, sure glad this thing's on wheels. On this side, yeah, they're sewn together as well. So I'm gonna actually be sewing the t-shirt and the garment together. That was my plan on this side, although at the end of yesterday, I thought I would have this and this just stitched to each other, which I might well still do. I think I might. We'll just have to see. No rules. You make up the rules. You're the one in control. That's what's so much fun about this type of sewing, at least for me. And I hope as I share this, it will become the same for you. Here I am at my ironing surface, and I just want to point out that a lot of this type of sewing that I do, putting things on top, I'm doing my sewing from the top. And if you look real close here, see this is just a little zigzag stitch with monofilament thread. And here I had to rip this open so that I could get this tucked underneath. Now what I'll do is straight stitch in the ditch with monofilament thread right through here in the well of this seam, and then just do that little half or 1 wide 3 long zigzag with monofilament in the needle and regular thread in the bobbin. As I'm stitching here on the back, and I've got this piece down now, one other thing has come up that I feel like I need to talk about. And that is when you're layering a lighter weight fabric over top of another, and in this case it's the knit, you've got to do some stitching somehow or other to make them behave as one. Otherwise this lighter weight one will just kind of bubble. Even if you've got it flat on there in the 1-to-1 ratio, it's just gonna kind of wool. So right here, I've decided to just stitch straight, and I've gotten out my seam guide and I put it, usually it's over here, but I put it in over here so that I can keep my eye here and sew straight along. I'll have the same decision to make in this area. What I might do, however, and drop my feed dogs and just do a little bit of free motion stitching around the leaves of these palm fronds. So that's just one other fun thing you get to do when you're doing creative sewing by layering. I have dropped my feed dogs, and that's one thing to look for in a machine. On this old FOF, it's right here. Feed dogs up, feed dogs down. On a lot of lower end machines, it's a lever in the back. On very low end machines, it's a cover that you put on top to cover up the feed dogs. And honestly, feed dogs that drop are far, far superior in my opinion. And I offer on the Sparrow 20 machine that I sell at my website and recommend to my students. I have put on my free motion embroidery foot. What that does is keeps the fabric down. And the main thing you have to remember is you still have to lower the tension. On this machine, there's a little ledge here that you put it down on. But if you don't lower your presser foot, you're gonna have all of the top thread, even if it's monofilament, as it is in this case, making thread nests down at the bottom, because if the presser foot is not down, the tension discs are not closed, there's no squeeze on the thread, so it just gets sucked to the bottom. So you gotta read the directions in your machine manual for free motion embroidery, but you must, there's not a machine in the world where you don't have to lower the presser foot, or that doesn't happen automatically like it might do on multi-$1,000 machines. I also have lowered my tension. Look here, it's all the way to 0, because as I start to work, I just know from experience that with monofilament in the top, regular colored thread in the bottom, because monofilament can be itchy, I always use regular thread in the bottom. If I don't want to see that navy thread from the bottom poking up at the top, I must lower my upper tension. And it doesn't matter if I had to lower it to 0. Whatever you have to lower it to is what you have to do to use monofilament thread in the needle and regular thread in the bottom. All right, I'm gonna try this new toy that I got. I've actually got my camera on this swish mount thing clamped to the arm of my chair. And I'm gonna show you how I do free motion stitching. My hands form actually the embroidery hoop. So lift my presser foot, come over here, lower my presser foot. You need to move at a consistent rate. All right, do you see I'm getting a little bit of navy popping up? So I'm gonna lower my tension even more. And if I stay on the navy side of these leaves, that'll be better. You just pretend that your sewing machine needle is your paintbrush. I've got a teenage student who's going to be doing this pretty soon, and she's artistic. She's just going to love this. Okay, now right now I'm hung up on something, I can tell. And it's probably one of the threads from underneath. Okay. don't have to do everything. I guess I already came along there. All right, well, it's attached. Here are these little diamond things, but I think I'm just gonna focus on doing the leaves, dark and light. Here's how it looks then from the back. Do you see how you can see that stitching? Now I'm not gonna tie my threads off or any other not silliness. I'm just gonna cut these carries of thread from one place to the other and do the same thing on the front side. So that's free motion embroidery. And now these two fabrics will function, will drape as one piece. Lots of fun, very forgiving, especially if you use monofilament thread. Now I happen to have grabbed, oh, I need to do this one yet. I happen to have grabbed my light, my clear monofilament thread, which is fine because I was using it in this area. Actually, if I were telling you what to buy for on this dark fabric, I would instead use the smoke. And let me just grab here. I know exactly where they are because I've just cleaned everything out. There's only two brands that I use. This is Invisible Wonder Thread from YLI, and this is Transfill or Monopoly from Superior. I guess there's three. I forget who Transfill is by, but this is the smoke, and this is the clear. When fabric is stacked like this, you really, really, really will be more successful if you put it on a vertical spool pin on your sewing machine. Because if you take thread like this and have it go horizontal, it's going to get a twist in it, and that's going to give you some problems. I sewed for years before I knew that, but oh, I forget his name from Superior Threads. Just go look on YouTube for Superior Thread lectures and the guy will come up. But he's amazing, and that's who I learned that from, and it is definitely true. While my machine is set up for free motion embroidery, see here how this is just kind of poofy? That's the other place. I'm gonna do, well, maybe not free motion embroidery. Maybe I'll just do some straight stitches through this area. However, this part is flowing free. See how it's draping? I'm not gonna do that work in there. Now, right here, I think I'll do a straight stitch right down the center of this part. And up in here, you see how I've got this tuck kind of stitched in or pinned in all the way up here. I'm just not sure right now if I'm gonna stitch that in or not. If in doubt, don't do it.